All right. See, I drew the fade out a little bit. I hope that worked better. How you doing this morning, Cameroon?
Man, I'm I'm all right. I had one of those nights where a little one came and crawled into bed, and he's not so little, and he's a kicker, so it was kind of like that.
This I can relate. So, all right. So far, we've got Steve, we've got Krista, we've got Zaluska, and an M. Hickman. I'm not sure if I know who that is. Good to see you. I hope you give us a subscribe there. Speaking of subscribers, guys, please like, share, and subscribe because... Oh, Danny's with us. Good morning, Danny. But please like, share, and subscribe. We've bled off a half a dozen subscribers recently, and I'm not real happy about it. And I see the new sub reminder just popped. Let me know if that's way too loud. You know what? I don't even care. I'm going to turn it down anyway because I don't want it to be... Yeah. Anyway, let me know if the sub reminder's way too loud. It's got a little... Steve says the audio is robotic. Well, I'm going to try to switch. I'm going to switch scenes buddy. In just a second here and see if that doesn't improve the audio. Apparently everything is going wrong, says Steve.
Thanks for letting us know, buddy.
Live is hard mode, and that's what Steve's for. So got some good things coming up. Got some good things coming up this week. The end of the week, Friday, we're going to do the, I think we're going to keep going with the kind of Firearms Friday roundup instead of just trying to do the one article a week that we had been doing. I think we're going to keep pulling up a dozen or so articles if I can find them. You know, sometimes I don't have that many, but if I could pull up a dozen or so, generally, I think we're going to do that. I want to talk. This morning we're going to talk about the bill. Let me know if the audio improves. I don't know what the problem is. So I'm going to keep fiddling with settings while Cameron's talking, and hopefully we'll find an improvement there. But this morning we're going to be talking about the new COVID relief bill. And how at every stage of the game, the COVID relief bill, the original one and new one, are gross betrayals. They're just absolutely, that they exist is disastrous. So we'll dig into this article in just a minute. I want to talk for a minute about the philosophical position on this. And Cameron, you and I are pretty tight on this one. So okay. Why don't you go ahead and take that for a minute?
First things first. Like, seriously, if I had my way, I would. I mean, thanks for sending me some of my own money back, but you're not even really sending me my own money back. You're just basically going to print it and devalue all of our currency. And then, yes, as Steve says, another unfunded $1 trillion pork bill, and that's
$2.4 trillion.
That's really what it comes down to. Is that, I mean, stop, okay? Like, seriously, stop printing money. I mean, thanks for my crumbs, okay? And besides, the reason why this is necessary is because of the lockdowns. And you could even make the argument that because the government has caused these problems, the government has a responsibility to make people whole. Except it's not really the federal government that caused these problems. It's not my fault that Gavin Newsom and Gretchen Whitmer are pieces of shit. You know, like that shouldn't come out of the national treasury. Now, what does that mean for California? Honestly, I don't know. That state is a flaming dumpster fire of a hot mess. But it is what it is. They're going to send us all some money. Turns out the price of your freedom is a measly $600, and it's pathetic. I mean, it's pathetic. And Krista makes a point about maybe we should cut their pay. Um, yeah, I'm actually really good with that. I think if you're the person that says, "Oh, lockdowns are good," you're the one that should go without money.
100%. And I'm glad you mentioned printing money. I was scared to death I was going to have to bait you into that, but boom. Let's talk about this. Tim Pool's mentioned it, talked about it a little bit. Let me show you this chart. Uh, this is representational of the money supply in the U.S. economy. Roughly 35% of all U.S. dollars ever printed were printed in the last 10 months. So let's take a moment and understand what that means. Inflation to the consumer, what inflation looks like is prices prices going up, prices rising. You start seeing everything go up. It it will feel kind of like when Obama was in office and gas was $5 or $6 a gallon. But that wasn't inflation per se. Inflation was a part of it, but that was a separate issue than what actual inflation is. In that case, what happened is, just the cost of fuel increased the cost of everything, the cost of transporting goods, the cost of going to acquire goods, the cost of going to earn money to pay for the cost of going to earn money. All of that went up because the price of gasoline went up. What inflation is much, much more insidious. It's a backdoor tax, or as the late great Herman Cain used to say, a backdoor of taxes. I love that little pun, the taxes. Sneak taxes.
Yes.
It's a backdoor tax because what it does, it takes your wealth from you by making your money less valuable. So what you see is a rise in prices, not because the cost of items has increased, but because the value of money has decreased, which means that even if you choose not to make purchases based on the rising costs of those purchases, you're still losing money. You're losing wealth because the currency dedicated to tabulating your wealth is decreasing in value. Right? So
Yeah, I was just going to point out that it reminds me of the alchemists. Like the whole point of alchemy was, oh, we can transform lead into gold. But if they ever succeeded, gold would have been worthless. So
now
it's the same thing.
Now, there's an interesting conversation to be had because today is a very different situation. When gold in the Dark Ages was essentially only valuable as an alchemical quandary because it's molecularly indestructible, and as a medium for trade because it essentially was a fiat currency. The idea that the gold standard and the current fiat standard are different is rooted exclusively in the mere fact of gold being limited in quantity, whereas the fiat currency, the US dollar that we use today, is printed and it can be printed in an unlimited quantity. There's no end to how much you can print it. But inflation literally stops the instant the printing press stops, period. Because what you're talking about is the dollar is a unit of measure. And what it measures is not wealth. What it measures is the subdivision of unlimited wealth. Wealth is unlimited. A limited part of all wealth is measured by individual currencies. When you increase the amount of currency tabulating the value of that portion of the unlimited wealth, what you're doing is you're cutting the pie into smaller pieces so everybody gets a smaller slice. And that smaller slice may still have the same number on it, but that number is suddenly attached to the numerator of a much larger denominator. That's how inflation works. It's incredibly insidious. And that a third of all money ever printed, all US dollars ever printed, were printed in the last 10 months. Guys, that's not just terrifying. That's indicative of the larger concern, which is, of course, that China and Russia are actively working to weaken the United States of America. If when you look at the COVID lockdowns and all that, there are some things that may or may not be true. It may be that COVID just spontaneously appeared. It could be that COVID is a punishment from God. It could be that COVID developed naturally. It's just another mutation of a similar flu virus. It could be that COVID was developed in a lab by the Chinese as a targeted strike. However, no matter which of those happens to be the case, the result, the end game that we're seeing is not affected by how it was originally introduced into the world. The fact of the matter is, COVID exists, and at the barest minimum, people in a large enough number believe that it is a significant threat. And I'm not saying it's not. Now, I will argue that there's a lot of data out there that suggests that COVID is not nearly as bad as the media and the Democrat Party especially want you to believe it is. Very, very high survival rate unless you are just covered up in comorbidities.
Unless you've already got heart disease and or you're over the age of 70, basically, you're probably going to survive.
Yeah, and I mean, even today, the average age of a COVID-19 death is older than life expectancy.
Age. Yeah, it's a bad joke. And not only that, but I know you saw the video Dr. Randomer Cam put out a few days ago where, the old man puppet was getting scammed.
Good God, yes.
Not only was that one, like, the guy's funny. He's an acquired taste, okay? There's a reason why he never cracked 100K subs. But Chris and I love him. But later on, toward the end of that particular video, it actually got me a little misty because it made me realize, to a certain extent, what he described in that video are what we're all doing. That we're kind of going along because we do have these older people in our lives that should be allowed to enjoy their twilight years. Now, I don't know how they can. They're not allowed to get together with their grandchildren for Christmas. You've got Cuomo that wants to bust up Jewish weddings. You've got Gavin Newsom that wants you to tattle on your neighbors if they have more than 10 people over for Thanksgiving. And what's the solution? The solution is we're going to print money. It kind of reminds me of the whole thing with climate change. Oh, what's the solution? A carbon tax. Whoa, hold on now. That doesn't actually mean less carbon. That just means we pay more for it.
Yeah. It has wisely been said that anytime you define a crime that has a fine and not and no other criminal penalty, what you have done is you've made it a crime for the poor.
Yes.
Basically, you've granted license. You've said we wish to abate this behavior only where the license cannot be afforded by the common man.
Wow! Put your faith in Jesus Christ, man. What a great YouTube name and fantastic comment.
Yeah, and I believe the Brushfire Mind channel is subscribed to Put Your Faith in Jesus Christ.
Um, and look, can we just talk about the other side of it, which is twofold. One, if I've got a second mortgage on my house, so that I could put up the $50,000 I needed to open my own bar, is that $600 check really gonna do me any good if I'm not allowed to open my bar? And then
Wow. Krista says the solution is violence.
wow, that was
By the way, if anybody knows of an AA group that deals with violence addictions, I would love to speak to them.
and then and then of course the final piece of it, we totally could have passed this bill back in July.
Yeah, the bill hasn't changed substantially from what was put forward back in July. It's not exactly the same, but it has not changed substantially. The idea that it was not passed in July because of some kind of stalemate. It was 100% Nancy Pelosi blocking because they didn't want Trump to hand out another round of bailout money to
With
voters.
his name printed on the
And
checks.
in all fairness, like I said earlier, there's a whole lot of reasons that I'm against both stimulus bills. Because in both cases, you're talking about a pittance. You're talking about an amount of money given to the people that's not worth them getting, right? And a lot of people were really happy to get that money. And please believe, when it pops up in my checking account, I will make use of it. I really don't have a choice in the matter, right? But the fact is, if you work and earn a living, this is costing you more than you're receiving.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you'd be far better off just being allowed to, go work your 40, 50 hour a week job. Like, that's. You get a check. Everybody gets a check.
Cameron, do you know who that is? W.T. Lowry?
Yeah, isn't that the uncle that I met?
No, you haven't met Tim. You'll notice he spells his name wrong. He's part of the Klan, as in the McLaren clan. Tim Lowry is a big damn dude. Like he's damn huge. He's nearly as big as I am. And last year at the games, at the Highland Games, he got out there and threw the caber. And Tim, if you've got any video of you throwing that caber, I would love to brag about my badass cousin. Klansman with a C. We wear tartans. We don't hide our faces. Basically, we get together once a year. We stand around a table covered in scotch and we drink scotch while we wear skirts and talk about scotch. Scotch.
Scotch.
And it's the don't fucking around kind of scotch, too.
Do you have scotch eggs for breakfast?
We do. My wife makes the most amazing scotch eggs you'll ever put your teeth into. Just break your damn heart. And if you don't know what a scotch egg is, let me tell you something. October, Stone Mountain, Georgia. Biggest Highland Games in the world. The clan chiefs from Scotland come over to go to our Highland Games. And the McLaren clan, of which I and my family are members, and that's a hereditary thing. That's doing the whole genealogy, and this is the Scottish clan you come from. We are by far the biggest clan out there, and people at the games joke about the McLaren clan. Every clan has a tent. This is a total tangent. I'm sorry, but it's fun. Since Tim's with us, hell yeah. And Tim says single malt only. I generally agree with you. I do have a blended on my desk here, but that's only because it came in a sampler pack with 2 other singles. So, and yeah, Zaluska, you need to bring your big ass out and throw some telephone poles. I am definitely getting back out there to throw polls again next year, assuming the Democrats don't shut us down again. Craig on Tunic, baby! Yes, Tim! But every clan has a tent, and every tent has a scotch table, a tasting table. The vast majority of them end up having 2 bottles on the table, because what happens is each clan brings a bottle, and then there's a sponsor at the games. Almost always happens. There's a sponsor at the games that goes around to each tent and puts their brand. Right? We've had the old Grey Goose. We've had what was it last year, Tim? It was that Glenmorangie. Glenmorangie was last year. And they come around and put a bottle on the table. Our tasting table is typically a 6-foot long folding picnic table, and there's just enough room around the scotch bottles for you to set a plate down if you happen to be snacking as well. Tim says Dewar's. Was it Dewar's last year and Glenmorangie the year before? Anyway, but yeah, one of the big scotch brands usually sponsors the games, and they come around and put a bottle out. But because we always have the huge table and we're freely just, hey, yeah, come on in, have a drink, chit chat for a minute. To anybody who walks by the tent, we're typically referred to as the cocktail party on the hill.
Yes.
So,
yes.
That huge tangent aside, thanks for watching this morning, Tim. I miss you guys. I hate that we didn't have the games this year because of the COVID. But the clan is they think like us generally, big-hearted, family-oriented, freedom-loving folks, and they tend to book a year out for where they're going to stay for the Highland Games next year. So when the games were canceled this year, a lot of the clan already had their reservations for campsites or hotel rooms or whatever. So they went ahead and came out anyway and just kind of had the games without the games. Tim says he still got to spend time with my folks. And I don't even remember I had another event that I had to do that weekend as well. But like I said, everybody books up a year in advance. I live here, so I don't book a hotel room for the games. I just go over to Stone Mountain. So, Lindsay joined us. Good morning, Lindsay. Hey, Lindsay, I am super duper looking forward to seeing you in a few days.
I don't see Lindsay in the chat. That's interesting.
That's because she said something and then everybody else kept talking. You see her there?
Oh.
She got chatted out. So.
Well, good morning, Lindsay.
Okay, so tangent aside, let's pop back over to this. I want to pull up. I mentioned inflation, and I just want to share real quick with you. This is what Milton Friedman has to say about inflation.
Inflation is just like alcohol. In both cases, when you start drinking or when you start printing too much money, the good effects come first.
Crap! Tell me if you can hear it, Steve. I don't think I'm getting audio from the display capture. Cameron, talk for a minute.
Talk. Lindsay says she can't hear.
Okay, I'm fixing it now. I think I'm fixing it now. Come on.
So what's that like? Three or four chats in a row from Lindsay, and she hasn't said anything foul or crude? Are we sure it's Lindsay?
You must still be working on your first cup of coffee at what is it, 0600 over there? Okay, let's try that again.
Drinking is just like alcohol. It's delayed effect on inflation. Inflation is just like alcoholism. In both cases, when you start drinking or when you start printing too much money, the good effects come first, and the bad effects only come later. That's why, in both cases, there's a strong temptation to overdo it, to drink too much and to print too much money. When it comes to the cure, it's the other way around. When you stop drinking or when you stop printing money, the bad effects come first, and the good effects only come later. That's why it's so hard to persist with the cure.
Okay, now, now, y'all should have been able to hear that, and and we should be good. Okay, so, Cameron, for the time being, you just can't talk while there's a clip playing. I'll explain it later. So, let's get back over to this. We have this article from Fox News about what's in the $900 billion coronavirus package. Now, I hope that what Friedman was saying makes sense to you. Basically, there are benefits that can be realized through printing extra money, but then the downside hits, and that downside is inflation. And inflation can become runaway inflation rapidly. And overcoming inflation means shutting off the printing presses. And in the case of the study of the Japanese inflation situation in the mid-'70s, it took over 5 years just for their monetary policy to come back in line. Right, so during that time, in order to get inflation back under control, their monetary supply had to suffer because they basically had to shut off the printing presses. And during that time, physical currency gets destroyed. You know, there's people wash a dollar here and there. You lose one in the street and it ends up in the trash, whatever. You know, in our case, times 320 million people dropping some coins or losing a dollar here and there. You like Steve, you gather up the paper money and have a bonfire, and that just might be a thing that has to happen. No shit, that just might be a legit thing that has to happen. Or
we just stop printing money. You know, we could try that.
No, that's what I'm saying is even when you stop printing money, you also have to. Yeah, I
was listening.
You have to get the supply back under control. And
I was being sarcastic for emphasis.
And like Friedman was saying, when you do stop the printing presses in order to get inflation back under control, the pain, the economic hardship, basically the bad part comes before the good part. So the alcoholism comparison is very apt. You get the benefit, you get the feel goods first, and then the suck comes later at the beginning. But then when you get to the cure hurts before it can heal.
It's kind of like setting a broken bone.
Yeah. Have you ever had to set your own broken bone?
No.
I don't recommend it.
I have had broken bones, though. I have had them pushed back into place.
I've reset my own broken nose several times. It's a thing. So, let's go through we're not going to read through the whole article. I want to get to where it's highlighting the pieces of it. Like I said, it's 2.3 trillion because they passed a $900 billion stimulus and then combined it with another 1.4 trillion, in spending to fund government operations. So, we're talking $600 a person, per person, $1,200 for a couple. That's $600 a person still. I don't know why. No, I do know why they're making the distinction for couples. If the couple's making over X, then nobody gets the money. $600 for dependents under the age of 17. Okay, cool. That's nothing. And that only accounts for what we were talking about that math earlier. It only accounts for about a third of the 900 billion. Is that what we came up with? Cameron?
Sorry, I was muted so that I wouldn't be obnoxious. And you broke up a little bit. I wasn't...
I was saying we were doing the math earlier on how much that $600 per person comes out to. And it was like a third of the 900 billion, right? It's less than a third.
It's like it's less than a third.
Yeah, so where's the other 700 billion going? Right, before we even get into the 1.4 trillion, which, by the way, includes foreign aid money. And I've talked about foreign aid on this channel before. I'm not going to say much about foreign aid today, except for this. My position on foreign aid is and has always been just like my position on U.S. citizenship. We should cancel all of it and make everybody reapply. And the standard, the bar to entry, should be a high one. So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
We just piss money away the whole world over. It's foreign aid makes me angry. We throw money to ungrateful shitburger countries that don't even use it for what they say they're going to use it for. Like, it's...
Oh, no, it's far worse than that. We throw money to ungrateful shitburger countries in an attempt to ameliorate them against being bribed by hostile countries, and then they take the foreign aid from hostile countries anyway. The idea is, hey, we're going to stroke you a check to help you out with your situation in your shithole country so that you don't take money from China and Russia in exchange for taking actions against U.S. interest. And then they do it anyway, and then we don't punish them. This, by the way, is universally the case with all recipients of U.S. foreign aid, without exception. So, 100% cancel all foreign aid. You want to, in fact, hey, Democrats, you want to cancel all student loan debt? Pay for it with foreign aid. Shut that shit down, and I might just get on board with you.
Zing.
What
else is in this?
Let's see. Rental assistance and eviction moratorium. That I'll give it to you on this one if the point is to offer some relief to people suffering because of the lockdowns that were caused by you shitburgers, then I would go so far as to include this $25 billion in the tabulation with the $600 checks. I'm stretching to give you a little bit of credit there, guys, but then we have airline industry aid. $45 billion, including $15 billion to help airlines keep their employees on payroll. Something here about tax breaks, but education. $82 billion, with more than $54 billion going toward K through 12 schools and $22.7 billion set aside for distribution to colleges and universities. Most of these schools are shut down. Right? We talked about this earlier this year when they were first shutting down the schools, and they were talking about how they needed to get more money in the schools. You shut down the schools.
Yeah, I mean,
if you shut down the schools and you don't have enough money to pay the bills on keeping the schools open, we have a problem here. And part of the problem is that you're a liar. If you're going to shut down the schools and not have schools in session for children to attend, and you have money problems, thing one is you actually shut down the schools. I mean, shut off the water, shut off the lights, lock the doors, leave the building. You send in a maintenance man once a month to clean it up and make sure everything's still operational, right? But you stop wasting money on facilities that are not in use. Step number 2, you fire the entire administrative staff, period. Gone.
Yeah, you don't need a front office if there's not a front office.
Okay. If you're doing the distance learning thing, you can justify 1 or 2 administrators, but take a look sometime at the cost of administration, just administration. When you look at the cost of administration for any government agency, one of the reasons that I'm against welfare, other than it being morally wrong, is to run welfare programs in a government, it costs between $5 and $10 to give a bum a buck.
Yes, and
give me back the $11 and I'll give the bum the buck.
Yeah, at this, we have a fantastic comment that said, COVID is like raw cookie dough. We know the risks. Now open it up and let us live our damn lives.
Damn right. And I have eaten the raw cookie dough. Yes.
I've gone through entire tubes of cookie dough and not made one damn cookie. That's for sure.
And Lindsay, and people degaff what the other money goes to because they're getting their $600. So goes to the school sounds good to everyone. Yeah, goes to the school sounds... $22.7 billion set aside for distribution to colleges and universities. Let me clarify that for you. That's $22.7 million being sent directly to people who are making arguments like we should deprioritize elderly people for COVID vaccines because they tend to be disproportionately white. And that will help us to level the playing field in America.
Yes.
That is literally an argument that's being put forward. The guy says we should prioritize healthcare workers and deprioritize the elderly. And I can even see where there might be an argument there, but then he lays out his argument, and his argument is that healthcare workers are predominantly minorities and American elderly are predominantly white. And for that reason, basically his argument is eugenics, exterminate the white people by killing the elderly with COVID, right? I can see an argument that early COVID should be prioritized to healthcare workers because they are more likely to be exposed to COVID, but that's not the argument that he's making. The argument that he's making is, hey, we have this wonderful opportunity to conduct a white genocide, so we should do that.
Yeah, you remember when Sarah Palin got made fun of for talking about death panels?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I do.
Because Pepperidge Farm remembers.
And so does the fat man. So, basically what you're looking at is they argued and argued and argued all year. They put it off. They put it off until after the election, explicitly for the purpose of, what do we call that? Election tampering. Specifically for political posturing. And then they come back and they spend $2.3 trillion in the name of coronavirus relief. And your average low information voter hears coronavirus relief and they think, oh, that's them sending a $600 check to everyone. And that's less than 10% of what the bill is funding. The bill is funding green energy maneuvers. The bill is funding critical race theory indoctrination camps. The bill is funding universities. But I repeat myself, the bill is funding, we didn't even get to this yet, $15 billion to the entertainment industry, primarily to small theaters that are in danger of going out of business.
Well, of course
I don't want to see movie theaters go out of business. I don't want to see movie theaters go out of business. But here's the thing. Are you also going to full stop end all the lockdowns? Because if you give the movie theaters a little bit of money to stay open and then you tell them that they can't do business, they can't sell tickets to people and have people come and buy concessions, they're still going to go out of business. So you're just dumping that money down a hole.
Yeah, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Damn, wow. Krista's getting spicy this morning.
Yeah, she's just on fire this morning.
Bring it on, honey.
She's calling for violence. She wants to see Hollywood burn. This is amazing.
Krista got black pilled. Oh, maybe I need a black pill splasher for the show.
Yeah, but I mean, of course the movie theaters are going under. Like, the only movie to come out this year that was like any kind of a blockbuster was Tenet. Like, that was it.
Yeah. And I still haven't seen it. You said it was very good. I haven't, because I didn't go to theater.
Yeah, it's
been one of those years.
It's not the best movie that Nolan ever made, but the final few minutes of that film will break your brain. They're pretty amazing.
All right. Well, I think we're about to wrap up. You got anything left to pontificate about there, Cameroon?
No, I mean, you talk about black pilled. Like, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with all this. Like, sure, Joe Biden totally won this election. Honk, honk. And we're just going to print another $1 trillion. Honk, honk. And everything's going to be fine. Honk, honk. And nobody's ever going to come for your guns. Honk, honk. And there's never going to be any death panels. Honk, honk. Yeah, I think that covers it.
Yep. All right. Well, y'all be safe out there. This was Taco Tuesday. We will see you tomorrow. Hopefully CNN does something crazy and stupid today so that we can do a full-on legit WTF CCPNN mañana. And we will see you then. Be safe. Love you. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe.